Welcome, I'm Mr. Cakeley, and this is Digital Media Production 1, and we are going to do a demo today on our motion project tutorial, which is assignment number 3, happens to be assignment number 3. But here's where you find it on Canvas. So in our home page, on Canvas, remember it's Digital Media Production 1. We go to our home page, and there's the routines for virtual learning. We'll go down to assignment number 3, which is motion text project. We'll read the instructions for this. And remember, your options before I click on the instructions are you can use motion through our Splashtop software, which allows you to access our computers at our classroom lab. Maybe you have motion already loaded to your computer, but you'd have to have a Mac. Or maybe you have Adobe After Effects, and I've also listed 8 other interesting and fun pros and cons of different softwares that you can use for animated text. So remember, motion is an animated text software. That's strictly what we're using it for. And in our assignment, which is right here on assignment number 3, I'll click on that assignment box. We are going to be asked to create 4 files in motion and export them out as .movs in creating. So the first one that we're going to create is a title in motion, and an example is Clash of the Titans, but you can use any title you want. So I'll use that example. The second video file that you're going to create in motion is production logos without a background. I'm going to use Happy Robot Films as an example. The third file you're going to save, is a production logo with a background. So I'll show you how to pop in a background into the motion template and then export that out as a movie. And then the fourth file in using text for our films, because remember the goal is these are all text items that are going to go into our feature films that we're going to create. The fourth file is a lower thirds, and lower thirds is the full name of a person and their title. And this is typically intended to be used when you're doing documentaries. You wouldn't use a lower thirds box to introduce in a character in a drama or sci-fi thriller film. You would typically introduce in a person being interviewed in a documentary, because 1, you want to establish who they are, and 2, you want to establish what are their credentials. Why are they talking to us? If I'm a PHS teacher and we're talking about CRFs, that would give some credence to that person talking. So that's the importance of that. The one text item that we're not showing here is credits, and typically credits are a scrolling credit that rolls from bottom of screen to top of screen, and you'll find those typically as smaller templates available in your video editing softwares, whether that's Final Cut Pro, which is what we primarily use, or Premiere, or Vegas Pro, or iMovie. We're not using those softwares, but if you are working within the digital media production class, we offer Premiere and we offer Final Cut Pro, and we'll be teaching in Final Cut Pro. So that's where else you'll find a text generator is within the video editing software. All right, so today we're going to complete these 4 files. I'll do a quick demo of that in motion, and we'll take it from there. Remember, motion could be a full trimester's class easily. We're going to take a template and use the templates because that's the easiest way to create the motion text. If I wasn't using a template, for example, if I was working for NBC and I was making a Peacock production logo and using the text and the graphics and everything in that would take a long time to animate and create. It may take a month or 2 or 3 or 4, who knows. So the templates are incredibly great at time saving and allow us to manipulate the template so that we can make it our own. Okay, first file is going to be a title. Second is going to be a production logo without a back. Third is production logo with a back. And fourth is going to be a lower thirds with their title, name of person and title. Okay, let's get started into motion. So I'm going to click on motion. And motion brings me up right from the start some templates. And so I'll start into the 3D templates. And remember, I'm going to create a title. I can click on any one of these template thumbnail screens, and it will give me a preview of what it will look like in loop form. Remember, it plays in loop, and typically these are anywhere from 2 to 10 second long video files that we're going to create, and the template will just reloop after 2 to 10 seconds. Okay, so if I'm going to create a title, this is a good one. If I'm going to create a lower thirds, that may be the one I want to choose. If I want to do a production logo and I want it to look metallic and boxy like a robot, this might be a good one. Remember, there are a load of different types of templates all available here in the side choice subfolder box that pops down right from the get-go. And remember, if you don't see that there, when you start up in Motion, instead of starting a new file, you're going to start new from Project Browser, and you'll get this popped up. So to create a title to film, I'm probably going to go with this Earth and use that as a template, so I'll double click on it. Let's get oriented with Motion and the layout. Over here you have your library. I'll move my image from that shot. In fact, I'll move it up above. We have a library and inspector, and these are the items that will either create particles, replicate them, create shapes, but mostly what we're going to use this for is font selection and text styles. Text styles come in 2D and 3D, and there are the options down below of, like, say for example, the 3D text. This is Chrome, and I'll see a preview of it up here in the upper left hand corner, or glossy green, or golden. You get the picture. So these are all choice texts. I personally like the 2Ds, and if I'm going to do a Clash of the Titans, I might do it icy or neon looking. Oops, there's neon. Possibly. And again, if I want to control those texts, I'll go into the inspector, and we'll do that in just a moment. But the main window that you're going to be working with is the canvas. And over here where my mouse is pointing at the canvas, that is where you're going to find the title. I may not see the title right at the start, so I go down here to the timeline, and on the timeline I'm looking at the time grid, and in the time grid it's moving by frames. So there's 60 frames, 120 frames, 180 frames, 240 frames, 300 frames. So basically the first 60 frames, which is 2 seconds, that's as far as my text generates on the screen. The next 2 seconds, that's where it goes. The next 2 seconds, that's where it's at. And the next 2, and the next 2. So after 10 seconds, that's how it develops. So I'm going to leave my playhead here. All right. So after leaving my playhead on the timeline there, you can also see here are all the layers. Here's my space footage. Here's my titles, my text. And then there's some features that give us the element that's in the template, whether it be lights or lighting up the objects, or the glow or radiation, or the stars in the background. Those are all typically found in there, and they're along with a motion. All right, so that gets us started. Now, to understand how to orient or change this title text, I'm going to have to click on this text button. So I'll click on the text button, click on the text. Now, does that always happen where you're actually clicked on the text? No, sometimes it wants you to start a different text box. I don't want that. What I'd rather do is come down to the layers down below on the timeline, click on title or text, then click the text button, then click on one of the letters. That allows you to actually choose the letters that are there. I don't want to type in new letters. Okay? So I'm going to type over that and call it Clash of the, and I may hit enter and put it to the second line so I can show you some options there. Let's continue to highlight this. And over here where it shows you library, I can choose a different type of font. Let's say I either want neon or I want ice. Let's go with ice. I'm going to click ice. And to apply ice, I had to have chosen that text over here in the main canvas. So I'm going to hit apply. And now that I have the applied text, I might want to increase the size of that. There are two different ways I can increase the size. I can go into Inspector, and under Properties, Behaviors, Filters, and Text, there are ways of controlling this text. Let's start with Properties. Under Properties, I can scale it up, increasing the size. Under Text, I can go to where it says size and increase the size. Thirdly, I can even go onto the canvas and grab one of the corners and increase the size, but now it's disproportionate. I can stretch it, I can bring it wide. There's all kinds of ways of playing with the text here. So multiple ways of actually playing with that text. And then I can grab the body of it and move it to a centered location that I want. Clash of the Titans. Now maybe I want to affect the earth and not have the earth down below. Maybe I want it to be up on top. So I have to click on the layers down here on the timeline to choose the Earth. And I can move that up. But look what happens. In the center, I can twist it and flip it upside down. I could grab the bottom of it and stretch it and then put it back up. So it's just a tip of the Earth, and it's a lot of radiating glow. And then I can click back here on the layers down on the timeline on text, and instead of having my text up above, it's going to be down below. Clash of the Titans. And that yellow line will allow me to know if I'm centered or not. So now I know I'm centered. All right, looks good. Text looks good. Earth looks good. Lots of manipulations you can do. I did them very quickly, but you can take your time and really play around with it. Let's hit the space bar and play on the timeline the text as it develops and pops in. Clash of the Titans. The Earth moves and glows and radiates, and it settles. That looks pretty good. I like that. Let's go to where the text fully completes itself on the timeline so I can move on the time grid. And let's go back up here. Oh, let's go back to the canvas and choose text option. Click on that text. And again, I'm not clicked on the text actually because I forgot I was on a space footage background layer down here on the timeline. So I got to click on the actual text title down here on the timeline, then choose text, then click on this layer. That allows me to choose that layer of text. Now, it very well could be under behaviors or under properties, I could change maybe some of the lighting and the shadowing. You can give it some highlights. You can give it some shadows by saying show and add shadows. You could change a lot of different behaviors of that text there. Same with under behaviors. Under behaviors, you're able to change some of the movements of that text. Under filters, we've not added any. And under text itself, there are options of changing, say for example, tracking, which allows me to widen text. Line spacing, which says, hey, that Titans, which is on the second line, you can either make it come closer or further away from where it's at. But I like the preset for the most part. And you can change font types and styles. So lots of different options. I like the way it looks. I like the color of what it looks like. I'm pretty good. I'm going to click off of that. Keep what I've got, and if I've got what I like and I played it in the timeline and I know that it works in terms of size, color, font type, movement of the background, I'm good to go. So right now I'm going to save to my folder. Now I'm going to minimize motion for a moment because my folder on my desktop, which is Rob Cakeley desktop 1, I've got a production logo folder. I want to create a motion project folder, so I'm going to title it Motion Project RK. Okay, so I'm going to save to that folder in Motion. So I'm going to go back to Motion, go File, and I want to, oops, I got to be clicked on the canvas, then go to File. Now it activates it, and I want to save as this template. So remember, this is a layered template, much like a Photoshop file. Okay? And I'm going to save it to my folder on the desktop. In fact, I'll just save it to the desktop and then I'll move it from there. That way you guys can see where it goes. And I'm going to title this Clash of the Titans. Title. Oops, my bad. Clash of the Titans title. And I put title in full caps because it's easy for me to see. Now that's my template. That's equivalent to Photoshop being a Photoshop file. But I have to compress this as a .mov movie, just like you would compress a Photoshop file image as a JPEG. So it's usable in Final Cut Pro. So I'm going to go to File, Share. So this is the second way I'm going to save it. Export movie. I'm pausing there so you guys can see that very clearly. This is how you export out a movie from the timeline in Motion. Export movie. I'm going to keep the settings the way they are. 1920 by 1080, that's what I'm looking for. And under render, I'm going to change my render quality from normal to best because I want the best quality export as possible. It's going to be approximately 459 megabytes. I'm going to click next. And again, where am I going to save that? Well, I think I'll save it to the desktop. Why not? I'll save it to the desktop, but I could go straight to my folder, my motion project folder, and save it there. Okay. So now it's exporting. Be patient, wait, and you'll recognize that it is exporting and rendering, and it'll pop up in QuickTime Video as soon as it's done. And I could close my, there it is, and I can hit play. And this is what the video will eventually look like. Clash of the Titans. Very dramatic, nice drawing of the text. Looks cool. It's got a great look to it. It's got very nice smooth movement. I like it. So I quit the QuickTime Video. I quit the motion file, and you'll see that I've got the motion file saved onto my desktop. I'll drag that into my folder. I just wanted to show you that I could save it to desktop, or I could save it to my folder on the desktop, and I brought them both in there. So this movie, not the motion title, but this movie is what I'm going to upload as the first video file in my assignment. So what I'm going to do is stop the video here, because that showed you the basics, but the next video that I'm going to show you is file number 2, file number 3, and file number 4, and I'll move a lot quicker on that one. Okay, so and then in that particular video I'll show you how to upload it up to the assignment drop off. All right.